For today's video, I'll be giving you a tour of my fish room now that the reorganization is finally complete. Aside from 2 tanks that I'll go into more detail later in the video, I'm really happy with how things have come together. Last year I did used to publish fish room tour videos every month, but moving forward I do plan to do them once every 3 months. This way the tanks have more time to grow in and develop between the different updates. So I want to start with my new rack since it's a main project I've been working on over the last couple of months. I do get quite a few questions about this, and it's an RB Boss 120cm rack from Screwfix, and I painted it black and then added a sealer to prevent water damage. I might get another one and add it next to this one later this year or maybe next year, but for now I'm happy with how things are. So getting into the tanks, and I want to start with my newest setup at the time of recording. It's a 45 litre or 12 US gallon filterless aquasoil aquarium using fluval stratum as substrate. I did add a small patch of sand in one corner for the Cory to forage in, since this tank is home to 10 Ember Tetras and 10 Pygmy Corys. I am new to both species, but they seem to be fantastic options for tanks of this size. 2 of the Pygmy Corydoras are albino, which I love because they remind me of my albino Corydoras Anais in my 40 gallon tank. Credit goes to Gateshead Guppies where I bought these, as he was completely upfront about the issues he'd had with the batch of Pygmy Corys both on his Facebook page and in person when I went to buy them. He did extend the quarantine period until he hadn't lost any for 7 days before selling me them. I've had them a week today and I don't think I've lost any of them either, so I'm hoping they are doing well. Both species are still quite a bit skittish in the tank because they're not used to me yet, but the Ember Tetras are slowly starting to realise that if I'm near the tank it usually means they're getting food or treats. Hopefully the Pygmy Corys will figure this out soon too, but for now they do like to hide in the plant cover. If you're new to my channel, one of the big focuses of the hobby for me over the last 6 months has been expanding my aquatic plant collection. In this tank I've added 5 new varieties, which are Heteranthera zeterifolia, Water Sprite, Bucephalandra Brownie Ghost, Rotala Bonsai and Bacopa Compact White. I also reintroduced Cryptocoryne parva after not having it for around a year. Now this Bucephalandra is just the regular Brownie Ghost, not the 2011 variety, so I'm not really expecting any really strong purple hues coming out of it, but I am interested to see how it develops. Moving on, and this is another 45 litre or 12 US gallon tank, and it's my self-cleaning CPD tank. I designed this one from the start to handle as much of the maintenance as possible on its own without me having to do much. I will be uploading the month 2 update for this tank sometime this week, but so far everything's going to plan. The Celestial Pearl Danios have settled in really well and they've already started to breed again, so I am hoping to get a few more babies before the winter temperatures set in. I have lost a few orange Neocaridina shrimp, but if you are familiar with my channel for whatever reason, the orange Neocaridina line is the one I always have problems with. Thankfully the losses haven't been as bad as I thought they would be, and I've only lost 3 or 4. As for the plants, I'm 99% sure that this Bacopa Mineri that I bought is actually Bacopa Compact. Unfortunately, this is a very common issue here in the UK because to my knowledge, none of the European plant nurseries actually grow the real Bacopa Mineri. Because of that, I do want to replace it, as this plant is just not going to do much in this area as it is a mid-ground plant in its aquatic form. Right now, I'm leaning towards Medania Kaisak or Hygrophila custata for that spot. I will probably lean more towards a Hygrophila custata because it's a soft water South American variety which should do well in my water. The tank's running on a Chihiros A2 light, which I've had to have as low as 40% intensity to keep algae under control. I have been increasing the light intensity step by step over the last few weeks because I want to get it as high as possible without algae growth to see if the Ulthananthera neckii mini will colour up even more. Other than that, I'm really happy with how this tank's going, and like I said, so far at least, everything's going to plan. Next up is my 30 litre or 8 US gallon jungle betta fish tank. I know the Limnophila sessiliflora in the back right looks absolutely battered in this tank, but that's because I did maintenance yesterday and I did trim it back quite a bit. Marmalade the betta fish isn't too happy with me right now because she doesn't like me trimming back her Limnophila sessiliflora or removing the excess Amazon frog bit, even though there's plenty of other hiding spots in here. They are by far her favourite. Something interesting that I have noticed in this tank over the last couple of weeks is that the yellow neocaridina shrimp have started to come out of their hiding spots a lot more in far greater numbers. Now I'm not sure why this is, but my theory is that these were the babies that I mentioned back in the setup video I uploaded a few months back for this tank. I'm guessing that the adults actually ended up dying either due to Marmalade eating them or due to natural causes, so these babies have had to raise themselves, and it took them a while to realise that Marmalade the Betta fish doesn't care about them and she's more interested in stealing their food than eating them. Plant-wise, everything is still going well in here and I'm really happy with the progress. I am thinking of changing the Cryptocorean crispitula in the back left of the tank. That's because it is a little bit of a pain to see in this specific setup, so I might move it over to a different tank and replace it. Right now I am thinking that something like Rotala Blood Red would look a lot better in this area. The tank is currently running on a Haiga 957, but if I do put Rotala Blood Red in here, I'll probably put one of my Chihiros A2 lights on it for better coloration. Next up is my 25 litre or 6.6 US gallon filterless cherry shrimp tank. I uploaded the monthly update for this tank yesterday, so I'll just skim over it in this one. Both the shrimp and plants are doing really well and I'm happy with how the tank's progressing. Something I did notice while editing yesterday's video at the very end is that there's already some baby shrimp in the tank. But at least one of the females that I added to the tank last month was already carrying eggs, so she'd conceived in one of my other tanks but gave birth here. Either way, it is always nice to see new baby shrimp in a fresh tank setup. The Sterigani repens should double in size and the Marcellia hirsuta should eventually fill out and form a proper carpet, while the Rotala hatra and the back right should get taller and colour up. Once that happens, I do think this tank's going to look amazing if all keeps going to plan. This tank is also running on a Chihiros A2 light, and I had this one as low as 30% max intensity to try and get the algae under control, but again, I am slowly increasing the light intensity to see if I can get the Rotala hatra to develop more colour. Next up is my 30 litre or 8 US gallon Walstad Betta fish tank, and unfortunately the Betta that I had in here didn't make it. As I mentioned in the unboxing short for that fish, it did look in bad shape straight away as soon as I took it out of the box and it was listing left to right uncontrollably. He did seem to improve his health, but he did eventually stop eating and ended up passing away. I did talk about this in a video a few months back, but Tiff's Fish, one of the bigger Betta fish influencers on TikTok and Instagram, did make a video going over how Bettas used to live for around 5 years when she first got into the hobby, but now she struggles to keep them alive for a year. One of my friends also lost one of his Betta Imbellus recently that I'd only had for a couple of months, so with all that in mind, I don't really want to go out and get another Betta fish for this tank because it's just a self-defeating purpose. So I'm not actually sure what I want to do with this particular setup long term, but I do have a few things in mind. With it being a portrait style tank, it does really restrict what I can actually do with the tank compared to a horizontal one. On the bright side though, the Snowball neocaridina shrimp colony in here is doing really well, and I spotted one female carrying eggs a few days ago, so hopefully I'll get babies soon. The challenge with this tank for the next few months is going to be balancing the bio load to make sure all the plants get enough fertilisation they need. Next up is my Dwarf Sag Shrimp Jar, and I'm hoping to put the build video for this one up in the next month or so, but it's a very simple setup. It is based on the Walstad method, using a layer of topsoil which is then capped with fine gravel, and then I plant a Dwarf Sagittaria into it. The Dwarf Sag has actually done a good job of balancing the water parameters, and I've had shrimp in here without issue for about a month now. I did decide to add some pothos grown out of the tank just as an extra safeguard to maintain water parameters. Next up is my golden white cloud mountain minnow tank, and I actually posted the 1 year update for this setup last month. There are two main things that I would like to change about this specific setup. The first is that I would upgrade it from a 45 litre to a 54 litre or 12 US gallon to 14 US gallon, just so the white clouds have a little bit more space. Second, I really wish I'd never added ram's horn snails to this because their population has boomed, but I have introduced assassin snails to see if they can get the population under control. But overall I am happy with how this tank's progressing, and if I can get the ram's horn snail population under control, I will probably keep this tank going for as long as possible. My current thinking is that I leave the Scape as it is for this tank, and when I move the white clouds over to a larger tank, I'll put some Medaka rice fish into this one. The carpet in this tank is a great example of why I personally think Helenthium telenum green is the best carpeting plant in the hobby for low-tech tanks. This is a room temperature tank that drops to 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. It doesn't run any CO2, it doesn't get liquid fertilizers, and it doesn't run high-powered lighting, but still it carpets without issue. The last setup on this particular rack is my Pearlweed shrimp jar. Again, this is a very simple build and it follows the Walstad method with a capped dirt system that I then added some Pearlweed to and just let it grow in. Neocaridina shrimp tend to thrive in these as well because there's so much plant mass providing so much surface area that they can consistently graze on algae and biofilm and just consistently breed. So moving over to my older rack, and this is just one of the more affordable shelving units off Amazon. I don't plan on using these racks for aquariums for much longer though, because their load capacity per shelf is far lower than the industrial racks that I can get at Screwfix or B&Q if you're here in the UK. Right now I've got these two racks side by side, but later this year, or more realistically now probably next year because we're into September, I do want to replace this with a 160cm RB Boss rack. The plan would be to keep these current tanks on the middle shelf and then add 4 54 litre or 14 US gallon tanks, 2 on the top shelf and 2 on the bottom shelf. Then the current older racks can be moved into the other corner of the room and serve as test racks because I have a lot of experiments that I want to do. So getting into what's actually happening on these racks, and I want to start with my 25 litre or 6.6 US gallon filterless Walstad Guppy Tank, and everything in here is going to plan. I know that some sources claim Walstad tanks crash after 12 months, but this one's getting up to 18 months old now and I haven't had any issues, and the plants in here is still getting regular trimmings and growing at a regular pace. Unfortunately, I did lose the sick guppy that I mentioned in the short about this tank last month, but I have picked up 2 new guppies just to slightly boost the bio load in here to provide nutrients for the plants. I have moved a bunch of the shrimp from this tank over to my other cherry shrimp tank last month too, and I gave around 20 away to a friend, so the population of cherry shrimp in here is a little low, but it will bounce back over time. I'm not sure if I will keep guppies in this tank long term if I'm honest, and my current thinking is to move them over to a larger 54 litre or 14 US gallon tank once I get them, just to give them more swim space. Moving on, and this is my 25 litre or 6.6 US gallon filterless Pearlweed jungle tank, and this is an absolute beast. The Pearlweed is grown so quickly now that I'm trimming it once every week or 2 depending on the ambient temperature in my area. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any more orange Medaka rice fish locally to add to this one after my male died a few months back, and the shrimp keep eating the female's eggs, so I doubt I've got any babies. Since Medaka are social fish, I will probably move her over to one of my other setups with more Medaka. I do have a lot of tiger Medaka right now, so I might move 4 or 5 of those over to this tank just to maintain the bio load for the Pearlweed. The Bloody Mary Neocaridina shrimp colony in this tank has been increasing at a ridiculously fast rate over the last few months. I'd guess that I've given 50 Bloody Mary shrimp away in the spring and summer, so maybe the last 4 to 5 months, and you honestly can't notice because they just consistently produce more babies. Like I mentioned with the Pearlweed shrimp jar, this plant just provides so many grazing areas that there's a high survival rate for the babies, and the adults just have so much food that they are constantly breeding. The downside of that is that there's just so many hiding spots in this tank that it's basically impossible to remove any low-grade shrimp, so over time the overall quality does decrease in here. Next up is my 25 litre or 6.6 US gallon filterless Platinum Medaka tank. I really love how these Platinum Medaka pop against the black background in here, and it makes them really stand out and catch the eye. This tank is definitely due a trim this week because the limner filler in the back is overgrown, but other than that everything's going to plan. Alongside the Medaka, I also have a Skittles colony of Neocaridina shrimp in here too, meaning there's mixed reds, orange, yellow and blue lines all in the same tank. I originally did this as an experiment just to see how long it would take for the offspring to revert back to their wild type coloration. But to be honest, I'm really liking the Skittles look with all of the different pops of colour around the tank, and I really do like it a lot more than I thought I would. I haven't spotted any baby shrimp in here yet, but there are a few saddled females carrying eggs, so I'm hoping for babies next month. If it does take several generations for the colony to revert back to their wild coloration, I might actually make this standard for my display tanks because I just like the pops of different colours all over. Moving on to my test rack, and this is just a jar of guppy grass in quarantine because it came from a tank with duckweed and snails. The rest of the setup is a series of plastic storage bins that I'm using to test biogravel sintered glass filter media to see if it actually helps reduce nitrate levels in aquariums. The second bin is dosed with 2 ppm of ammonia and has 110 grams of biogravel spread across the bottom as substrate, and I do think this has the highest chance of success. The third bin is also dosed with 2 ppm of ammonia, but the 110 grams of biogravel is in a small hang-on back filter which follows the standard stocking recommendations for a water volume of this size. Finally, the fourth bin is dosed with 4 ppm of ammonia and has 220 grams of biogravel in it, following the heavily stocking recommendation for this water volume. I haven't decided if I want to redose these tanks with ammonia over time or not yet, because the higher the nitrate levels climb, the more difficult it'll be to see if there's any meaningful reduction. I also plan to get some GH and KH salt soon so I can maintain the regular mineral content of my tap water without having to do water changes, because that will passively lower the nitrates. I let this test run for 6 months, but once it's complete I want to repeat the exact same test with Sea Chem Matrix, Lava Rock and Leca. Moving on, and we get to my 160 litre or 40 US gallon community tank. I am planning to get the Rescape video online this month or next, since I have made a few changes over the last few months. Removing all of the Rotala rotundifolia stems from the background has unfortunately reduced the tank's natural filtration capacity, so I have been dealing with some algae issues. The good news is that I am slowly getting everything under control in the tank, so with any luck the algae will dissipate over the next month or two. As always at this time of year, my Cory, Harlequin rasboras and cherry shrimp are breeding like crazy in here. The black Medaka rice fish that I have in here will either be moved to my friend's breeding setup or into my community Medaka project soon. On a less positive note, my chili rasboras are starting to die off in this tank, which I just think is due to old age, because from what I've seen online, these little guys only usually last for around 3 years. Overall though, I am really happy with how this tank looks right now, and I'm planning to keep it going as it is for as long as possible. Next up is my high-grade cherry shrimp breeding tank, and I've set this one up in a modular style so I can easily remove the filter, ceramic hides and moss with ease whenever I need to remove the low-grade shrimp and put them in one of my other tanks. This way I can easily maintain the quality of the shrimp in this tank without it degrading over time. So far it is going well, and I've had a few generations of Neocaridina shrimp born in here already, but I am hoping for at least one more, hopefully 2 before the winter arrives and breeding rates slow down. This is another shrimp breeder setup that's still cycling, that'll follow the exact same system but have a different colour of high-grade Neocaridina shrimp in it when ready. And that brings me on to my Endler's Live Bearer tank, and I know this looks rough right now, its maintenance day is literally tomorrow, but when I come to do maintenance on this, I'm not sure if I'll do the maintenance or actually take the tank down. That's because I am thinking of moving these Endlers over to the tank where my Betta fish passed away to help with the bioload to support the plants. The footprint isn't quite as big as this one, but it's the only option I have without adding another Betta, and I really don't want to get another Betta with them seeming to die so quickly these days. If I do debuild this tank, then I'll simply turn this into another Neocaridina shrimp breeder, cycle it, and then I'll add some other colour of high-grade Neocaridina shrimp once it's safe. Finally, I've got a summer tub out the back as a test just to see how it would perform. It's currently stocked with around 15 Tiger Medaka rice fish, but I am giving 8 of these away this coming week. It uses a very basic system, and the hornwort, duckweed and water lettuce do all of the filtration in here, and I haven't had a single problem with water parameters since setting it up. Like I said when I was talking about my Pearlweed jungle tank, I can't find any more orange Medaka in my area, so I might move her into this and then move 3 or 4 of the Tiger Medaka out of here and put them into the Pearlweed jungle tank. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this in the long term either, but I would like to try and keep it outdoors over the winter as a test. I've seen videos on Ryo Watanabe's channel over in Japan where they keep a lot of outdoor Medaka during the winter and put plastic sheets over the top to stop them freezing, but I do need to research that more before I make a decision. Thankfully, I have months before that'll become an issue and the temperatures will get cold enough for that to cause problems, so I have got plenty of time to make a decision. So that's all of the setups I currently have. Anything you didn't see in the video I no longer have in my fish room. For example, one of my 29-gallon tanks has already been given away and my other 29-gallon tank has been debuilt and will be given away soon. I've also given one of my 25-litre tanks away as well, and my undergravel filter tank has been converted into the high-grade cherry shrimp tank that's still cycling. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. Thanks for watching, I hope it's been entertaining and good luck with your aquariums.